me start with something that might make you uncomfortable. Most men don't realize there's a problem with their prostate until it's already affecting their life. Frequent bathroom trips, poor sleep, discomfort, even anxiety. And by then, they're not asking why it happened, they're asking how to fix it. But here's the truth. What if I told you that some of the foods you're eating every single day could be quietly working against your prostate health? Foods you think are harmless or even normal. That's exactly why you need to stay with me, because once you understand this connection, you can make small changes today that may protect you for years to come. Now, let's talk about something most people overlook. Your diet is one of the most powerful tools for your prostate. Not genetics, not age alone. What you eat daily plays a huge role in inflammation, hormone balance, and overall prostate function. And here's where it gets interesting. There are 8 common foods that research and clinical experience consistently link to worsening prostate symptoms or increasing long-term risk. First, processed meats, things like sausages, hot dogs, and deli meats. These are loaded with preservatives and compounds that can increase inflammation in the body, and your prostate is very sensitive to that. Second, excess dairy. Milk, cheese, and butter in large amounts may influence hormone levels, particularly factors linked to prostate growth. Third, fried foods. They don't just affect your heart, they increase oxidative stress, which can impact prostate tissue over time. Fourth, refined sugar. This one is huge. High sugar intake fuels inflammation and can disrupt insulin levels, both of which are linked to prostate issues. Fifth, excess red meat. Occasional consumption is fine, but frequent intake, especially charred or processed, can increase risk factors. Sixth, high sodium foods. Too much salt doesn't just raise blood pressure. It can also irritate the bladder and worsen urinary symptoms. Seventh, alcohol in excess. It dehydrates you, irritates the urinary tract, and can make nighttime symptoms worse. And finally, caffeinated drinks in large amounts. Coffee and energy drinks can overstimulate the bladder and increase urgency. Now, this doesn't mean you can never enjoy these foods again. That's not the point. The point is awareness and balance, because here's what most people get wrong. They wait until symptoms show up before making changes. But prostate health is something you build long before problems begin. Simple swaps can make a big difference. More fruits, vegetables, healthy fats, and hydration can support your body instead of working against it. And most importantly, listen to your body early. Subtle changes matter. At the end of the day, your prostate health isn't controlled by one decision. It's shaped by what you consistently do. So the real question is, are your daily habits protecting you or quietly working against you? Most men don't wake up one day and suddenly develop prostate problems out of nowhere. The body rarely works like that. Instead, it sends small, quiet signals that are easy to ignore, easy to dismiss, and often misunderstood as just getting older. Maybe it starts with waking up once at night to use the bathroom. Then it becomes twice. Then your sleep starts to feel broken, but you convince yourself it's normal. Or you notice that your urine stream isn't as strong as it used to be, or it takes a little longer to get started, but again, you brush it off because it doesn't feel urgent enough to worry about. Some men even begin to feel a slight pressure or discomfort, but ignore it because it comes and goes. What's important to understand is that these are not random changes. These are early messages from your body telling you that something is shifting, often related to inflammation, lifestyle habits, or gradual enlargement of the prostate. Problem is, most people don't connect these symptoms back to their daily routine, especially their diet. Instead, they wait until the symptoms become disruptive, when it starts affecting their confidence, their sleep, or their quality of life. By that point, the body has been signaling for months or even years. And here's where awareness becomes powerful. When you start recognizing these early signs, you create an opportunity, not for fear, but for control. Because at this stage, small adjustments can have a meaningful impact. Ignoring these signals doesn't make them go away. It simply allows the underlying issue to progress quietly in the background. When it comes to prostate health, one of the most underestimated factors is diet, and not just in extreme cases, but in everyday eating habits that seem completely normal. Most people think of food in terms of weight, energy, or heart health, but very few stop to consider how what they eat directly affects the prostate. The connection is subtle, but incredibly important. The prostate is highly sensitive to inflammation, hormonal changes, and metabolic health all of which are influenced by the foods you consume daily. This means that your breakfast, your snacks, your late night meals, they are all sending signals to your body that can either support balance or gradually create stress. For example, diets high in processed foods and sugars can lead to chronic low-grade inflammation. You may not feel this happening in a dramatic way, but over time, this type of internal environment can affect how the prostate functions and even how it grows. Similarly, certain foods may influence hormone levels, particularly those related to testosterone and its byproducts, which play a role in prostate enlargement. This isn't about one meal causing a problem, but rather a pattern that builds over time without you noticing. Another important aspect is how diet affects your urinary system as a whole. Foods high in salt, caffeine, or irritants can make urinary symptoms worse, increasing urgency, frequency, or discomfort. Many men assume these issues are purely age-related, but diet often plays a significant hidden role. The challenge is that these connections are rarely immediate, so it becomes easy to overlook them. What makes this even more critical is that diet is one of the few factors you can actually control. You may not control your age or genetics, but you absolutely control what you put on your plate every day. And once you begin to understand that your food choices are either helping your body stay balanced or quietly contributing to dysfunction, it changes the way you think about eating altogether. Most of the foods that negatively affect your prostate are not rare or unusual. They're part of everyday meals, things you see on your table, in restaurants, or even marketed as convenient options. That's what makes them so easy to overlook. You're not making a bad decision in the moment. You're simply following habits that feel normal. But over time, these small, repeated choices can begin to add up in ways that directly impact your prostate health. Take processed meats, for example. They're quick, accessible, and widely consumed, but they often contain preservatives and compounds that promote inflammation in the body. Then there's excess dairy, which many people consume daily without realizing that in large amounts it may influence hormone activity linked to prostate growth. Fried foods are another common part of modern diets, and while they may stay good, they contribute to oxidative stress, which can affect cellular health, including in the prostate. Refined sugar is one of the biggest hidden contributors. It's not just in desserts, it's in drinks, packaged snacks, and even foods you wouldn't expect. High sugar intake can lead to insulin spikes and chronic inflammation, both of which create an environment where prostate issues are more likely to develop. Similarly, frequent consumption of red meat, especially when heavily cooked or charred, has been associated with increased risk factors over time. Then there are high sodium foods, which don't just impact blood pressure, but can also irritate the bladder, making urinary symptoms worse. Alcohol, when consumed in excess, can disrupt hydration and irritate the urinary tract, while too much caffeine can overstimulate the bladder, leading to urgency and frequent trips to the bathroom. What's important here is not fear, but awareness. These foods are not necessarily harmful in isolation, but when they become a consistent part of your diet, they can quietly create conditions that your prostate has to struggle against. Recognizing them is the first step toward making choices that better support your long-term health. What most people consider normal eating today is very different from what the human body actually thrives on. And that gap is where problems often begin. If you look at a typical daily routine, quick breakfast, processed snacks, takeout meals, sugary drinks, it feels completely ordinary because it's common. Everyone around you is doing the same thing, so it doesn't raise any alarms. But normal doesn't always mean safe, especially when it comes to long-term health and something as sensitive as the prostate. The issue is not just about one unhealthy meal here or there. It's about patterns that repeat every single day. When your diet consistently includes processed foods, excess sugar, unhealthy fats, and high salt intake, your body adapts to a state of low-grade inflammation. You may not feel it immediately, but internally, your system is working harder to maintain balance. Over time, this chronic stress can start affecting different organs, including the prostate, which is particularly sensitive to these changes. Another factor is how modern eating habits often ignore natural hunger and fullness cues. Eating late at night, overeating, or relying on convenience foods can disrupt metabolic processes. This affects hormone regulation, including those linked to prostate growth and function. Many men don't realize that their daily routine, not just what they eat, but when and how they eat plays a role in how their body behaves over the years. What makes this more concerning is that symptoms don't show up right away. You could follow these normal habits for years without obvious issues, which creates a false sense of security. By the time signs appear, the underlying changes have already been developing quietly. That's why relying on what feels normal can be misleading. Instead, it becomes important to question whether your routine is actually supporting your body or slowly working against it in ways you can't immediately see. The good news is that protecting your prostate doesn't require extreme diets or complicated routines. It often comes down to simple, practical swaps that you can realistically maintain. Instead of focusing on what you have to completely eliminate, it's more effective to think about what you can replace and improve. Small adjustments done consistently can create a meaningful shift in how your body responds over time. For example, if processed meats are a regular part of your meals, consider swapping them with fresh, lean protein sources like chicken, fish, or plant-based options. This reduces your intake of preservatives and inflammatory compounds without sacrificing protein. If dairy is something you consume heavily, you don't necessarily need to cut it out entirely, but moderating portions or exploring alternatives like almond or oat-based options can help reduce potential hormonal impact. When it comes to fried foods, shifting toward grilled, baked, or air-fried options can significantly lower the amount of unhealthy fats and oxidative stress your body has to deal with. Similarly, reducing refined sugar doesn't mean giving up sweetness altogether. It means being more mindful of hidden sugars in drinks and packaged foods and choosing natural sources like fruits when possible. Hydration is another powerful, yet increasing your water intake helps support urinary health and can reduce irritation caused by caffeine and alcohol. Speaking of which, instead of Eli, eliminating coffee or occasional drinks entirely, balancing them with adequate hydration and limiting excess can make a noticeable difference in symptoms. Adding more fruits, vegetables, nuts, and healthy fats into your diet supports overall inflammation control and provides nutrients that help your body function more efficiently. These are not drastic changes, they are realistic adjustments that fit into everyday life. And when you consistently choose options that support your body instead of stressing it, you gradually create an environment where your prostate can function more comfortably and efficiently. At the end of the day, prostate health isn't something that suddenly becomes important when symptoms appear. It's something that's being shaped quietly by your daily choices long before you ever notice a problem. The decisions you make every day, especially around food, are either supporting your body or slowly creating an environment where issues can develop. And the reality is, most men don't feel a sense of urgency until their comfort, sleep, or confidence is already affected. Taking control doesn't mean becoming perfect overnight. It means becoming aware of what's within your control and choosing to act on it consistently. You don't need extreme restrictions or complicated plans. What matters more is recognizing patterns, what you eat regularly, how your body responds, and where small improvements can be made. These small decisions repeated over time have a much bigger impact than occasional drastic changes that don't last. It's also about shifting your mindset from reacting to problems to preventing them. When you understand that your body often gives you subtle signals early on, you start paying more attention instead of ignoring them. That awareness allows you to step in earlier when changes are easier and more effective. Waiting until something feels serious limits your options, while acting early gives you more control over the outcome. Another important part of taking control is consistency. One healthy meal won't transform your health, just like one unhealthy meal won't ruin it. But what you do most of the time is what truly matters. When healthier choices become part of your routine, rather than something temporary, they start working in your favor without requiring constant effort or willpower. Ultimately, this isn't about fear or restriction. It's about understanding that your health is not random. It reflects your habits. And when you take ownership of those habits, even in small ways, you move from being passive about your health to actively shaping it in a direction that supports your long-term well-being. So when you step back and look at everything we've talked about, one thing becomes clear. Your prostate health is not decided in a doctor's office. It's decided in your daily routine. It's in the choices you make when no one is watching, the foods you eat without thinking twice, and the habits you repeat over and over again. The 8 foods we discussed aren't dangerous because of a single meal. They become a problem when they turn into patterns. And the same is true on the positive side. Small, smarter choices may not feel powerful in the moment, but over time, they build a foundation of protection, balance, and long-term health. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to eliminate everything overnight. What you need is awareness, consistency, and a willingness to make better decisions more often than not. The earlier you take control, the easier it is to prevent problems instead of trying to fix them later. Your body is always communicating with you. The question is, are you paying attention or are you waiting until it forces you to? Because the real goal isn't just to avoid decisions, it's to maintain control, confidence, and quality of life for as long as possible. And that starts with what you choose today.